Hello, I'm Reinhard Schiemann, and I would like to present a PhD project today that we are advertising at the University of Reading, and it is called How Will Extreme Weather Affect the Energy Sector in Europe Under Climate Change? So if we think about the energy sector, so that's essentially power generation and use of power, it is clear that there are interactions with meteorology, with weather and climate. For example, in 2021, we had a long wind drought, so conditions where there was very little wind over Northwest Europe. And there are other extreme weather events like heat waves or cold spells that interact with the power sector. And one challenge for the power sector on a planning horizon of, say, the next 30 years or so is the transition to net zero. That is, to use ever more renewable energy. And all that while climate change is ongoing. So what is needed to inform that transition is we need to map out how the critical meteorological situations that affect the power sector, how they may evolve over this timescale of the next few decades. And that's a very interesting science comes in, because we know climate change is happening and the world is warming, and we know it's due to human activities. What we know less well is how the circulation, so essentially anything to do with winds, will evolve, especially so over the North Atlantic and Europe. And clearly winds are an important variable for the power sector. Another aspect that comes in over this timescale of a few decades is that while on the one hand we have what we call forced climate change, so what I've just been talking about, global warming and all its implications, there is also what we call natural variability in the climate system. So even without global warming, there are changes in the climate system that happen on scales of a few decades. And again, over this planning horizon, we need to map out both. We need to map out climate change and how it might affect the power sector, but we also need to take into account this natural variability. And there's a way of doing that. What we do is we run computer models of our system, of the climate, and we do not only run them once, we run them many times over. And in that way, we can systematically take into account natural variability and climate change. And that is, in broad terms, what we are planning to do with this PhD project. Now, from what I've said until now, you can already hear that there are a few aspects to this project. So on the one hand, we need to know about the fundamental meteorology. We need to know about the power sector as well, and we need to know about computer modeling. So in order to bring it all together, we assembled a team of people that will be supervising this project, and I would like to introduce them briefly. I'd like to start with Professor David Rayshon, who's the co-supervisor of this project. He leads the Energy Meteorology Group at the University of Reading and has many years of experience working exactly at that interface between meteorology and the power sector. An external co-supervisor for this project is Dr. Laurent Dubu. He works at RTE in Paris. So RTE is the French power system transmissions operator. RTE also provides case funding for this PhD project. And Laurent is also head of the World Energy and Meteorological Council. So he is exactly the right person to ensure that what we learn in this project will arrive where it needs to arrive by the people managing power systems. Next in line is Professor Christian Grams at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. One specific piece of expertise that Christian and his group have, they have derived a classification of weather regimes. So that's a method to systematically look at the weather, at the circulation over the North Atlantic and Europe. And these weather regimes are known to describe variations and impacts on the power sector well. And with the help of Christian's group, we will employ this weather regime classification in this PhD project. So and then there's me, Reinhard Schiemann. I work at the National Center for Atmospheric Science, where I'm an associate professor, and I am currently leading the development of this large ensemble of climate model simulations that I've already talked about. And my science interest is in extreme events in general. For example, so-called atmospheric blocking events, which are associated with exactly these conditions, low winds, cold spells, heat waves, that are very relevant for the power sector. So to summarize, I think what makes this project special is really this combination of a relatively urgent need in the power sector to learn about the meteorology that affects them, and this very fundamental, interesting science that we still have to do, especially in the North Atlantic and Europe. If you have more questions about that project, please don't hesitate to approach us or apply directly for this project through the scenario portal. Thank you very much.